It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting just by emailing me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Check out our Patreon. I got the show coming up with Norman Pardo about his, he used to work for O.J. Simpson for many, many years. That's going up in the exclusive members section on Patreon. But got a ton of free stuff I'm putting up there as well, too. Plus, you can hear the shows we play Monday to Friday, AM/FM radio on Patreon without the ads. We cut the ads out. Check out Spreaker. Go to Spreaker.com. That's where we have our archives. And if you go to Spreaker.com, you could find our guests today. We have Barbara Brussell is back, the daughter of May Brussell. She was just on last week, but there's just so much material here to go over that we're having her back. Barbara Brussell, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, thank you.
Thank you so much. So we've been talking off the air for 41 minutes. Okay, so let's see if we have anything left to say.
Did we save anything?
You know what? Oh, wait, let me double check because sometimes I do record the off. No, I don't think so. Okay, so remind the audience who is Barbara Brussell and who is May Brussell?
Oh, please! I have to ask that every day. I'm just the daughter. I'm not the researcher. I am the daughter who has my own life as a cabaret singer, and that's my dharma. Like, what do they call it? Is that what it is? That's my love. I love musical theater, and I love cabaret singing and that. But I also, I'm just feeling so kind of devoted to my mom and her work right now because of the body of work that is available right now to take back her library after all these years, and the value that it still has. That's sort of who I am right now. I've got a CD I'm working on, and I've got this I'm also working on.
Okay, you can go to Amazon.com, okay, and you put in Barbara Brussell, okay, and there's three beautiful pictures of Barbara Brussell, beautiful woman. Go there and check out the pictures. And this is where you could find her CDs of her cabaret singing. Learner in Love is one album, and the other one is called Patterns. At Amazon.com, Barbara Brussell, 2 S's, 2 L, and no S at the end, Brussell, singular. And also, too, we're here talking about the May Brussell Project, which is trying to save the May Brussell archives and library. So you can go to maybrussell.com, and there's a link at the May Brussell Project. And there's a GoFundMe, and there's a website for the May Brussell Project to save this material. Now, what is it, the recent reason? Well, you know what? Before we get into that, I had you on last week, and I made a mistake. I thought that you said that your mother attended a personal workshop at the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, but now you're telling me it's the Asilomar?
Oh, I may have made that mistake. I do that sometimes.
I think it was me.
Esalen is in Big Sur, and Asilomar is in Pacific Grove. No, I think I said Asilomar, and I described, whatever I did. I did describe where it is on the Monterey Peninsula. It's on the point.
Yeah, people corrected me. I said Esalen, and you said Asilomar. Okay. So I just wanted to verify that. Okay. So now, what is it that all of a sudden now you have access to this library, and we're looking for a place to house it? Well, what's the story behind all that?
Well, because it's such a it feels very personal. It feels like I really want to protect it. I really want to have some control over it, of protecting it someplace, to digitize it right away, get it into the internet, make it accessible to anyone who wants to see it for now and maybe for future generations. And now's the time to do it. And also then the body of work itself could go to a museum, a university, a library. Someone can have it. They can, if they are interested in it, make a great stage set, all of her filing cabinets and her, I saw a picture of one of the files with a Nazi reference and Dulles reference and this reference and that, and the rock musicians and all these ideas that she had and files and files. And I thought, just my eye, when I saw it, it looked like this beautiful, colorful, like rainbow in a way. They were like tabs, but it looked like this, I don't know, like a row of like striped sand or striped, like a sunset. It just had a beautiful look to it. And then I looked again. I was like, oh, there's names and titles and things. So there's kind of a lot of work there to do. But we want to take every file, open it up, digitize it, put it into the thing, and then also cross-file if possible. So we have a team of people ready to do that.
Right, but if there's anybody out there that knows of a library or a college or something like that would house this, that's one of the most important things right now is to take chain of custody of this material. Now, what is the chain of custody? We're talking about this off the air. What is the chain of custody of this material? How do we know that your mother's research material things haven't been taken out and things haven't been added to it?
Well, how would we know if it really was? It's been gone for 30 years.
Yeah.
Basically, it started with my mom. Her will was that, anything that was left went to the kids, anything at all, physical, all of her books or library radios and anything, items, and whoever wanted to go between the four of us. And then originally she entrusted the library to John Judge. I was there. He was there on the deathbed. And they went and got the library, and they took it out of the house, and they put it in a place in Santa Cruz. Okay, then a board was created to oversee the May Brussell Library in Santa Cruz. This is 1988. And later, something weird happened. I wasn't there, but John's behavior seemed questionable to the board. He was locking the door, or someone saw a woman with him who came out from the East Coast. I don't know who it was, and like taking drugs or meds, and then people got suspicious. Like anyone could take a medication, but somehow they thought he was being mind controlled or something. I don't know. I really don't know. But whatever it was, they took the library from him, and then it went into a storage unit. Not a storage. It went into a basement of a bookseller. His name was Tom Davis. And so Tom took the library for a while, and then there was a leak in the early 90s. And Tom's store, had a leak. And then Virginia McCullough offered to house it because she has a very large home. And it went to her basement, and that was the last it's been seen until recently in the summer of 2021. Now, in 2020, just before the big COVID crash, I got a letter from somebody, and somebody also was trying to reach Dr. McCullough. Virginia has had a stroke 10 years ago. But in 2020, apparently they were looking for a place to put it. We had tried Stanford, we had tried Baylor, and to no avail. They were both going to lock it behind closed doors for 4 years to curate it, whatever. And that makes sense. But on some level, no one would be able to see it. And if anyone wanted to get in, they'd have to go through clearance, they'd have to go through this, they'd have to have the librarian go get it, they'd have to sit and not to be able to copy anything or take anything out, So it seemed fairly controlled, but it still didn't work out, whatever the deal was. The guy at Baylor, my sister had a lot of, requests, and they went through the list. I thought it already had moved. I was in New York at the time. And by the time they agreed, it never got moved, and the guy retired from his position, and the next guy who came up didn't want it. So it stayed in the basement of the McCulloughs. And since there have been people who write the McCulloughs for it, people have called them. I'm like, wow, how do they even know that the McCulloughs have it?
That the McCulloughs have it, yeah.
Yeah, Virginia McCullough, I think she was kind of a researcher herself, and she likened herself to be like May. And they never matched. We never knew Virginia when Mom was alive. Somehow she wanted to protect it. So basically, they'd had it all these years, and now that they're done with it. Virginia can't do anything with it. She had this terrible stroke. And I called Dr. McCullough, and he's happy to let me finally take it. Before, yeah.
Okay, so then where we are right now is that it's urgent to take custody of this material, okay? So you've created...
I do feel that.
Yes, and you've created...
I will get it out by March 31st.
The May Brussels Project is a GoFundMe, and if anybody out there knows a college or a library or that can house this and take immediate custody of this, so we can preserve the chain of custody, like you said, it's just way too valuable to allow this.
Well, here's the thing:
yeah.
If they have a custody, here I have one gal who wants to come and do the digitizing. We need 2 computers and plenty of storage space. We need, storage like software storage space. So 2 computers. We need 1,500 square feet, and she's willing to live there. She's willing to put her own money into part of the rent.
Right.
We need like a full bath, shower. That a home would be great, ideal. A storage unit would be fine. We could cart a little bit over to another place the whole time. But if it goes into somebody's hands that we don't know, we'd like to keep it in, we'd like to do the work. And anybody who's interested can do the work. But this one girl, Glenna Schultz, is going to be in charge of the work itself.
Yeah, I've known Glenna for many years. She's fine.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So that's ideally, to move it to a library to say, here, take it, feels like it's still out of our hands.
Well, but that's why you would have the board. You'd create a new board of directors, who ensure all this and keep an eye on all this stuff.
Right.
And by the way, too, now we had discussed last week that you still want me to start playing those shows for you?
That'd be fantastic.
Okay, great. I would love to. As soon as you get
and Glenna has been what I would call it, transcribing.
Right.
Some of the tapes. So maybe if you want to take some of those and with the transcriptions as well, then you can start there, unless you want to go chronologically.
No, definitely. I would like to go chronologically, yes. As soon as you can get me that thumb drive, let's do that. Now, one of the things...
My God, yeah, he's working on it.
Oh, no. That's my honor. It would be an honor for me to do that. Are you kidding me? Now, last week, one of the things that I cut you off, that the audience reminded me that I cut you off. I wouldn't let you talk. We were talking about Tex Watson going to visit your mom's friend around the corner. Now, I was told by someone, I was sent a message, and they said that this woman in this house is missing now. No one knows where she went, that they think she went into a mental institution, psychiatric institution. What can you tell us about the Manson family and your mom's work on the Manson family?
Oh, my God. That's one of the scariest topics of all. And Glenna helped me with this because she did all the transcriptions from the TV, when they had the court case and something like that. She, in the olden days, she did all that stuff. And Mom really basically thought that Manson was allowed out of federal prison. He went to Mexico and back. He was a pawn. He didn't actually do the murders. He could have been mind controlled. The girls, and the murder. He could have been the pawn, let out of prison to do the nasty deeds and to create the hell on earth and frighten everybody and just destroy the hippie movement. They look like hippies, but they're friggin' murderers.
Yeah, and Tex Watson didn't look like a hippie at all. He was just out of the military. He had a military crew cut.
And apparently, and this is what shivers me to the bone. We're all so innocent in those days, and yet, we're joking. It's like, good night, J. Edgar, things like that. And if someone was, watching Mom, then it meant it was kind of validating her in a way that she was important enough that they were watching. On the other hand, there could be some really bad agents going on, agents around us. And if that house, right, like a quarter of a mile from our street, and it backed up to the cul-de-sac, which is up on the hill, so you can't see our house from where they are, but you could walk a path up this little hill, which we used to ride our horses up, friends' horses up there, and or walk down. So technically, it was just a 10-minute walk, and it was on Carmel Valley Road. So if they wanted to see who was coming and going, you'd probably see it. And so Louise James is the woman you're talking about. She had 2 children. I know the boy is not alive. But next, there were 2 little barns. They look like little barn houses. And she used to watch this other thing, and she saw people arrive. And I think that's where she saw later when they were in court or on televised. She went, "That's the guy I saw," and it looked like had been Tex.
And
which isn't that so scary? If that was the case, I don't know.
No, and it says that she was shortly after this allegation, she was committed to a psychiatric hospital. Now, your mother was aware that she was committed?
I have a blank spot. I don't know.
Okay.
I get you that. Save that for next week. See if my sister remembers.
Gotcha. And I'd like to have you both too on the show. Yeah. And
there's somebody who wrote to me about this too. Someone just says, "Hi, Barbara. I'm so and so and so." I'm like, and he has a story. I'm like, and he wanted verification about location and streets. I didn't want to say the specific streets because there's still people who live there. And it's like, ugh, I don't want to, do that to them. But anyway, it doesn't really matter.
It would be interesting if we can go back in the property records on that property and see, if it was ever rented out, who owned it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we got that. Now, let's see. I asked you, what were the circumstances around your mother's death?
Oh, well, people live, people die. Our family lived into the late 90s. Her mom and dad and grandparents and everybody lived into their 90s. So I thought, oh, goody, we're going to have longevity. And then Mom dies at 66. Blew that. But Mom, she wasn't a smoker, but she did like a lot of coffee, and she liked sugar. So maybe, and she'd go to the doctor regularly. So maybe she had a natural cancer, or maybe it was ovarian cancer. So in May, she's diagnosed, and 5 months later, October 3rd, she dies. Before May, she had been given a death threat. Well, I think it was Aquino, who said, you will disappear just like so-and-so and so-and-so, and you will just scared her so much she got off the air.
Well, a couple of questions. Well, why do you think it was Aquino, and who was the so-and-so and so-and-so names that he was mentioning?
There was another, there was a couple that was found dead in the valley or disappeared. I don't know the specifics, and that I wonder if that letter is in the files. I don't know. I don't know why she didn't show me the letter itself.
Your mother got a letter, but she never showed it to you.
Either she got a phone call or a letter, yeah.
Okay.
But it scared her so much that she got off the air.
And why do you think it was Aquino?
I think she said it.
Okay.
Because she was attacking the satanic ritual cult.
Right. Now, what year was this? What year was this?
88.
88.
Well,
okay.
87. In that fall of 87, we should find out what those tapes were.
Okay.
In the fall, winter 87, because 10 months later she was gone.
And what vein was she traveling down there investigating satanic cults? And was this also involving satanic ritual abuse of children?
It's everything. Pardon me. Repeat the question because I'm talking over you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So now, what was she investigating regarding Satanism and satanic ritual abuse of children? What was she saying?
We'd have to listen to the tape,
right?
Because it was so dark and ugly. I lived with this part of this world, and I wasn't living at home at the time. So, I would hear peripherally all these. It's horrible to listen to this stuff.
I know.
That's the other thing. If whoever's listening, this is what I was sharing with you earlier. It's like we're trying to raise money to save this work, the ugliest work alive, to research the people who are committing crimes and getting away with it. Now, if you don't want to look at it, would you be willing to send $10 and we'll take out your trash for you? That kind of thing. I'm thinking, there's people who love to do this work, the people who are not afraid, who have, steel guts, who can look at this stuff, who can look at the Manson stories and look at the research of Son of Sam, all that stuff that is so hideous, that's beyond comprehension, whether it's, systematically handling the Jewish problem in Germany. They called it the, quote, Jewish problem. How do we annihilate 5 million people, 6 million people? Systematically create an end train station, deport them right there. That's it. I mean, crazy. Intelligent, sophisticated, educated men sitting around a table deciding to kill 6 million people, and plus the residual other peoples. So these ugly, ugly things exist on the planet just because we have that in our mankind nature. Some people do that, and the other people have to deal with it. And we don't want to deal with it. We want to just go to the pool. We just want to get a massage, have a spa day. Mom, I wish she had a few more spa days. I mean, she was beautiful and didn't want to do anything about that. She couldn't work hard enough, fast enough. She was chasing time, and whether she died of natural causes or whether she had a research thing about people who were smeared with cancers. You can smear a rat. You can smear an experimental. You can shoot someone a laser. I mean, is it possible? Is it possible to smear cancer on a doorknob? Is it possible? I don't know.
When you look around, like people like Hugo Chavez, with these fast-acting cancers, and Dave McGowan's another one. It's I don't think it's a coincidence. You know what I'm saying? Now, and one of the themes of your mother's philosophy and of her work was that there's a new Nazism arising in America. What do you think she would have said if she had seen Donald Trump?
Well, that's interesting because I think, when I saw Biden shaking hands with Monsanto, I was like, day one, shaking hands, FDA. The guy he's promoting the head of the FDA is the Monsanto king. What? Genetically modified organism. Oh, yeah, be our food, and drug administrator guy. What a crock of hell. Okay, I don't know what she'd say about. I think she'd say that, as nutty as and egotistical and narcissistic as Trump may have been, he was a perfect pawn even to attack, to set him up. That he got COVID and got cured in 2 days. Why didn't he stand on his own 2 feet and say, you don't have to die. Take this medicine. Take these precautionary measures. You don't have to die. This is not a pandemic where you got to shut the doors and annihilate people. Kids are committing suicide, and now you got to take a vaccine. Mom would talk about that. The genetic warfare, the mind control, the dissemination, the creating chaos and confusion and pitting people against each other. There is no more. We're a civil war, no matter what it is. And even some of my favorite musicians are like against Joe Rogan now. What? Even Joni Mitchell, her own song about anti-war. Like, what time is this to trade the handshake for the fist? She's taken her music off Spotify to smear Joe Rogan, who's had Malone, who invented the vaccine and saying, don't give it to babies. Don't give it to children. It'll screw up their hearts. The greatest surgeons in the world right now are saying, don't give it to children. Okay, so my mom would say that Trump was actually, I think he was used to upset the cart. They pushed him in, they got him elected, and then they could control, even though he thought he could change things. He started to change things, and then they knew that his ego would just be so weird that he'd split the country in half.
Almost like a wrestling villain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, with someone you love to hate, you mean?
Yeah, a guy playing a role of this nutty wrestling villain. And he actually did do a wrestling bit in real life. He was on WWF, with Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon had to shave his head because he lost the wrestling match.
What?
Oh yeah. For real. For real.
Long time ago?
Wasn't that long ago. That's not long ago.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But see, he's so out there, and he had his own foibles. Come on. And he's so provocative. I mean, he's so, he provokes everybody.
Okay.
Even he split the country. You know, that's not a president.
Now, May, what about one of the main things that your mom was into and reporting on was the assassination of John Lennon. Well, now, and even if you think back now, the assassination of John Lennon, it was so suspicious from beginning to end. But what did your mother have on that?
Oh, well, I heard part of a tape that she said recently. She went to KLRB the morning after, shortly that first week after, and maybe the day after, or whatever. And she sees the guy who works at KLRB, and he comes up to my mother, and he goes, "Now, May, this was just a lone person. You can't make a conspiracy out of this." And my mom's like, What? Like, who are you to have figured out this murder in 12 hours? Who are you? Don't you think I have read 100 books on mind control, brain, electrode implants? The guy, I forget his name. I hate to even
Chapman.
Yeah, Chapman. He was in a hospital in Hawaii. He was funded to come here or there. How did he get in front of it? She had a whole list of people who she felt the rock stars, musicians who had possibly been infiltrated and murdered, overdosed, or whatever. The people who brought us together. And John Lennon was certainly one of them. And here he comes with his beautiful new album called what? Called Starting Over. You think they wanted him the first time? They certainly didn't want him the second time. Maybe that was I don't know. But right before it goes out, they take him out. So now she accused certain people, which I can't even say because you have to listen to what she said. You have to follow that. You could talk to Glenn about this. But that's one person that she thought was possibly off, and so she did some research on that, and she has that in the files. She talked about it online. I mean, on her radio station, on her shows. So we could highlight some of those shows if you want to grab one of those. I think that Glenna might know which ones to look at. Also, like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, The Doors. I mean, all these guys who are the ones who are the thinkers, who are really bringing something to say. It could be just natural. Yeah, well, it's heroin. Oh, they just overdid themselves. Charlie Manson's handler, his, what do you call it? His, the person you report to after you're in jail and you have to talk to somebody.
Parole officer.
The parole officer was at Haight-Ashbury, handling drugs at Haight-Ashbury, observing everybody. And that guy also adopted Charlie's baby. I'm sounding like my mom. I'm just going off on ricochet. But the thing is, there are people inside the system who know so much about the drugs and who's taking them and where the artists are. And the artists are the artists. They're just so in the zone, wanting to, make their music and make love with the audience. And of course, Jimmy with his guitar, and which Mom took us to see the pop festival. I think I told you that, right?
I don't know about that, but you talk about the mysterious deaths of so many of these musicians and rock stars of that era. Some information. I'm not going to mention the musician's name, but her ex-husband died of a cocaine overdose, and he was alone in the room with Bill Menser, the assassin who killed Roy Raiden, the hired assassin. The guy, he's in prison right now, a hired assassin. And he was alone in the room with this guy when he's dying of overdosing on cocaine. So, some things don't pass the smell test. But what was your mother's long-term relationship with John Lennon? Did she ever meet John Lennon? Because he funded Rampart magazine.
Oh, I think I mentioned it just briefly. Well,
yeah.
When they had 3 weeks after the Watergate happened, this is 2 years before the truth came out. 3 weeks, Mom wrote a book. It was like a book, but it was an article, and you can still get it from the Realist.
Okay.
It's online, actually. You can find it. It was called "Why Was Martha Mitchell Kidnapped?" Because she had the big mouth and she was talking too much. So off she goes. Anyway, why was Martha Mitchell kidnapped? She knew a bunch about the Watergate people and all that stuff. G. Gordon Liddy and Hunt, the same guys who were in Dallas. Yeah. So Mom's been watching this all this time. She writes an article within 3 weeks. They need money to produce the paper, and Krasner was friends with John and Yoko, and he had been very supportive to Yoko when she was doing some of her art and her wonderful stuff, her performance art stuff. So they asked, and they wanted to meet Mom because Nixon, I think, had a trumped-up charge of the pot with,
right,
and put either I don't know if John Lennon went to jail or was charged. Or
immigration. They tried to deport him. Immigration.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So they really messed with him. So Mom, he had no qualms about asking about helping to fight Nixon in any way, right? So they wanted to meet Mom. So I mentioned it last time that we knocked on the door and we hear this guitar playing on the other side of the wall. It was like, I'm like, there's a Beatle in there.
Wow.
Playing a guitar. He shook my hand, and I say it was a really kind of a limp handshake. It was kind of weird. Like, I felt like, as a reference, a TV, an old movie reference. Who was the guy? Forget it. Anyway, I walk in. It was so exciting to be there, and we ordered milkshakes. And I said, "Do you think we can get a coffee milkshake?" And John thought that was a great idea. So we had coffee milkshakes together. And Mom and Yoko and John talked and discussed everything. And then they gave us $5,000. I gave Mom $5,000 to print that, and that really was the extent of the relationship. I don't know if they followed up or anything like that. But John was always friends with Paul. And Paul was so great. I love Paul so much. Paul, he really had a way with words. He said one time, I'm going to quote him. This was in, I think, Spin magazine. It's important for those of us who lost a thick layer of innocence on November 22nd, 1963, to be aware that for another whole generation, it's already become ancient history.
Yeah.
About, and that's what people think. It's ancient history. I talked to my brothers. I talked to someone else. No one cares. I talked to a friend of mine. I feel like the character in Frozen. They said, "Oh, Lee Harvey Oswald did that." I'm like, I just like, what? I forget. People still believe that. People still believe. I grew up thinking it wasn't true. My mom, quoting her, how much violence was there in Nazi Germany? Before the old Germany, the center of theater, opera, philosophy, poetry, psychology, medicine, the whole culture. How many incidents took place that were not coincidental before it was called fascism? What were the transitions? How many people? Was it the first tailor disappeared, or librarian, or professor, or the first press was closed, or the first song was eliminated, or the first poem? When the first poet mysteriously disappeared, or when the first political science teacher was killed coming home on his bike? How many incidents happened that were perfectly normal until people woke up and said, "Hey, we're in a police state"?
It happens very slowly, yeah.
What? Yeah.
It happens very slowly.
It's insidious, and it's also, like I said this time, it's right in front of our eyes. Now, I don't want to be a big downer, because as down as this was, Mom also had this light side, this musical theater side, the pop culture. She knew every song. She went, "That's a hit," "Bridge Over Troubled Water." She knew every rock musician's song. She could identify it. She took us to the rock concerts, to Big Sur Folk Festival, to Monterey Pop, all the musicals. She took us to Dylan's last show and
let me ask you this though. Now, because we were talking off the air about Dave Emery too. I had Dave Emery on the show, and you were saying about Dave Emery hanging around the house, and I guess so. You had all these people
Mom loved Dave.
Yeah,
Mom loved Dave Emery.
So you had these people like Dave Emery and Paul Krasner just kind of hanging around the house, right? Okay.
Well, I mean, they were there on the daily basis, but if Paul came to town, he'd stay for a day or two.
But the thing is, when they were there, what kind of discussions, what kind of topics were they discussing? What was fresh in the news, or did they have secret discussions?
No, they're just talking about what they found and what they heard and what they read and what they saw. Comparing, what they saw, and Mom would go, well, wait a second here. And she'd go into her office and bring out a file. Let me set you straight.
Yeah. Now, was there ever anything that your mother was researching or found out that she was afraid to talk about on the air?
Oh, such a good question. Because in a way, maybe the satanic ritual after that, and then she got off the air after that.
Right.
But everything was risky. Everything was bold, and especially in those days. I mean, a lot of people are in alignment today, in agreement, or are open-minded about how many lives we had to endure. And that's the thing about today, why it's so important today to take the truth and have it digitized before it's lost.
Yeah. But something too, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but today, we have so many of these young podcasters, who do these kind of conspiracy shows now. And there's a tendency now to as well to over conspiracize every little detail, every little thing that happens.
I know.
Every little thing's a false flag. Every little thing's an assassin. Everything's a psyop.
And there's so many places to go with so many things. It's confusing.
Right. It's
like, there's so many ways to meditate today. There's so many ways to heal trauma today. We're inundated. It's like, go where your interest is. Go where your truth is. Everybody has to make a decision in their lives how they're going to live their lives, how they're going to spend their time.
Well, my question though is how do you think your mom would react to seeing all these youngsters who worship her, and look up to her as a hero, but maybe don't have the same kind of sobriety and the same kind of caution and reverence for the truth and the facts? I'm sorry?
I don't think Mom has a lot of caution. I just think that she was passionate. I think she'd be really inspired by people's, desire to want to know the truth. I think that would really make her happy. I think she'd be really, and if people are acknowledging her, I think she'd feel a sense of pride or, maybe she wasn't right about a lot of things or some things. Maybe she overspoke things and didn't get a chance to make a rebuttal or something. But whatever she did say, whatever questions she asked, that was important. Questions should be asked about if things don't seem right. Like you said, didn't smell right.
Right.
Like, what is this thing,
Now, when you as a family, when you're sitting around, did you get at the home or maybe at the radio station like letters and phone calls from people with the really outlandish theories? And, sometimes I'll get letters and they write in little tiny handwriting, like every inch of the paper is covered, with the...
in a circle.
Yeah.
In the margin.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I don't know. I think she got all kinds of funny stuff. And even her name got written wrong. Like her name was Mae, M-A-E, Brussell. And one time she got like a Mabe Russell, M-A-B-E, or M-A-Y-B-E, Mabe. They thought her name was Mabe Russell. All kinds of letters, I guess. And there was when I was I was studying history, and they had, I don't know who it was. One of the people, I can't remember, but I remember what he did. He said he wrote back letters to every single person who wrote to him. And that was like something of note in this guy's life. May did the same thing. Anybody who wrote to her, she would take the time to write back to them. And this is not emails. There was no, computer. There was that one computer that Frank Zappa gave her.
Right. Oh, okay. No, wait, I forgot about that. Let's get into that a bit. Frank Zappa gives her a computer. Now, are you aware of the allegations around Frank Zappa that he was involved in all kind of intelligence stuff? What was your mother's relationship with Frank Zappa?
Well, I think my sister, you have to double check with her.
Yeah.
That she didn't trust that. Was it you who said that? She said everything's gonna be electronic. You have electronic mail.
Yeah.
But that would be it. That was the electronic mail and email.
Yeah.
And to be traced, they can put it in the cloud and put it. I mean, someone could see it. It's a two-way street. So Frank Zappa, I don't know if she knew him or how she knew him, or maybe it was. I really don't know the connection. And there was a play written about May and Zappa. A guy named Josh something in Colorado did a play. It's funny that people don't even call us and say, "Is it okay if we write about your mom?" Hey, I wrote about your mom. You want to double check, make sure the facts are right. Maybe it was just this fantasy story of the two of them, but there is a play out there in the world.
Well, the thing is, your name's not really out there. I didn't know Mae Brussell had any adult children out there, what they were doing. It's not common. It's not all that common until now, I guess, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, we're talking about Barbara Brussell. If you're just tuning in, you want to check out her she's a cabaret singer. No. Cabaret singer. You want to go to Amazon.com and find her two albums here, Learner in Love and Patterns. And we're talking about the Mae Brussell's project. We're trying to preserve and archive all of Mae Brussell's fascinating research in her library, and all her files need to be taken into custody as quickly as we can here. So if you're into like fundraising, if you're like a fundraiser, or you know how to write grants, requests for grants, any of that kind of stuff. If you want to help out with this project, you can get a hold of me at OperaReport.com, and I'll pass it along to Barbara Brussell. Let's see. Now, tell me a little story off there, funny story about how you and your sister would steal her car. Tell us that.
Well, when Mom was on the air, we knew exactly where she was, so if we wanted to do something, that she really didn't want us to do, like go smoke cigarettes or have sex with somebody, or drive the car to the beach. My sister would do that, actually. She would take her and her friend, I think they might got stoned or something. They take the car, and she was underage. And they weren't even 16. And they drive the car down the street or down to the beach, hang out for 40 minutes. They were listening to the radio, so they get back. They know when it was over. So they drive back, park it, sometimes not in the same place. And then they'd know that Mom was, she'd get off the air, hi. No.
So wait, so your poor mom, right? She's worried about the CIA. she just got finished talking about J. Edgar Hoover, right? And you and your sister are stealing her car and putting it back in the wrong place. And then when she notices, you don't tell her.
Oh no, that's where it was.
Yeah. So she's probably the next day searching the car for microphones and planted drugs and stuff while the kids are off in school. She doesn't want to worry you.
Exactly.
Oh my God!
So one time, she hated this guy I dated. The guy had a brother on the Dallas Police Department, and
right.
And it was a drag, had she just left me alone, like 3 weeks tops, it would have been over. But she kept hounding me and hounding him, and she walked into his house one day, and you're drugged, she says to me. And I'm like, I was asleep. I had my arm up in the air. I was like saying something silly, like a poem, and she's like, you're drugged. I'm like, get out. It was so sad because basically he was a turkey, and I really shouldn't have been with him. It was a drag later, and it took me 3 years to stop seeing him. And she pushed so hard that as a kid, you're just defending. I couldn't let it go. I had to keep defending her. I had no option. And because I wasn't being the good girl. I mean, I don't know. Because I thought she was wrong.
Right.
She was wrong at that time.
Well, kids are normally rebellious too, and you don't understand the significance of the target on Mae Brussell's back, especially as a teenage girl, has a crush on a boy.
And then she put that on the air. She put it on the air that he's in the CIA. And I'm like, oh, my God, she's talking about me on the radio. So, listen, years later, I could see that the guy was a total jerk, and I shouldn't have been with him at all. But whether he was CIA or not, I don't know. But,
okay.
Well,
I'm glad you agreed.
The mom was very funny too.
Right.
What?
I'm glad you agreed to clear that up, because we talked about this off the air, and there was this little rumor, allegation out there that one of Mae Brussell's daughter wound up marrying either a CIA or FBI, some kind of agent, and so that's the story you're talking about, where this fellow you were dating had what kind of background, a brother in the FBI or something?
Well, the brother was on the Dallas Police Department.
Dallas Police, okay.
I mean, that was sort of like, the Dallas, where Kennedy was shot.
Right.
Anyway, she just questioned him. No, that's not the person I married either. So the person I married. Let's not even discuss that right now.
Right. Okay. But your conclusion in this allegation that people have about one of the daughters being associated with an agent. You don't. What do you give that any credibility? Yes or no? Do you think it's possible or not possible?
No, no one married an agent. No.
Gotcha. Or was in a relationship with an agent.
No. Oh okay. No. That other person, whether it was, we never would know. How would we know?
Gotcha. Okay.
That other person who's no longer, in the picture.
Gotcha.
Good Lord have mercy.
Okay, and ironically, your mother, by trying to get you apart, you pushed you closer together. Right?
It's so sad to be a mom and be fearful. Bless her heart.
Yeah, or a dad, let me tell you.
I'm trying to be a good daughter now. I'm trying.
You know what?
She was such an exciting mother. I wish we could go back in time and I could bring you over to the house and you can taste her great recipes, and she'd whip up a meal and then she'd bring out some files and show you what she was working on, and it was always very exciting. And I'd love to have that excitement around that for people who really love this work, to be able to see it and have, see her handiwork,
Yeah,
really.
Barbara, I was just about to tell you that we're out of time and could just sum it up. But I think what we're leaving off there is perfect. The way your mom's cooking and bringing out her files, and people have a chance to experience this now if they would just go to the Mae Brussell Project. It's on Facebook. There's a website, MaeBrussellProject.com, and support this effort to preserve this valuable, important work by someone I think everybody's clear was on the right side of history.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility to preserve this work and make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands, doesn't get destroyed, doesn't get altered. Okay, so the Mae Brussell Project. I'm going to do a little commercial too, and we'll put this.
Thank you so much, Ed.
And we'll play for you. And we're going to start playing the Mae Brussell shows for you too. It's history, it's important, and I'm honored to be allowed to do that. So we'll have another conversation next week with you and your sister.
Yay.
Or just your sister, whatever you'd like. Thank you so much, Barbara Brussell. And check out this beautiful pictures on Amazon here of Barbara Brussell and her beautiful music, Turner in Love. Or is that
Lerner?
Lerner in Love. I got bad eyesight.
You did good.
And Patterns. Thank you so much. Good night.